So when I was on a coaching call a couple days ago, somebody asked me to, explain why mindset and heartset work was so important. Why this, why this mindset stuff, why understanding what was happening in your mind and your body, why it was so valuable, why it was so important, why it was so critical, and what difference does it make in the world? And in this episode, I want to explain, and hopefully when you get off this episode, when you stop listening to this episode, when you finished, you will understand why this work is the most valuable, important work you will ever do in your life. And you'll have to face some things you'd probably rather not face, that you'll have to demonstrate like mental and emotional courage to go inside of you to understand what the hell is happening and how to let's say, resolve internal conflict and create and fill it with internal goodness. Hopefully you'll understand why that is so critical. So what I did is, after I got off that call and I couldn't like easily and eloquently explain it, like in a very simple, I guess I like metaphors. I really like to give a picture and an image. I didn't have a metaphor. I didn't have an image to communicate. So I was like, after I got off the call, I went to work. I was like, what is a great metaphor where I can easily explain why mindset and heartset work is so important? And here's what I came up with. This one was super cool. When I came up with it, I'm like, holy crap. And I went and shared it with my wife, Angie. And just like anything else, she's like, I hear your stuff all the time. So anyway, she's not as I don't know, passionate about this spiritual work and this coaching work as I am. She loves being in the mastermind and on the calls, but yeah, when I'm flapping my lips, it all sounds the same to her. But anyway, I shared it with her and I called up some people and I shared it and I got some great feedback. So it seems to have clicked for me and seems to click for some people. So I'm going to share it with you. All right. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine in your mind's eye, your third eye, if you're spiritual, imagine in your mind's eye, a mason jar. Let's say put the mason jar in your left hand. Okay. You got a mason jar and it's empty. And I want you with your right hand to put the lid on. Okay, cool. Now you have a mason jar with a lid. And all that's inside is air. Empty mason jar, air in there. And I want you to imagine you set the mason jar down and beside a sink, and you've got a really deep sink and it's empty, and you put a stopper in it, and you take the faucet and you turn the faucet on and water's going into the sink. Now I want you to imagine that the water is wealth and success. Okay? Wealth and success. As that sink fills up and it fills up with wealth and success, I want you to imagine that is wealth and success in the world. You can go ahead and turn off the faucet, by the way. So now your sink is full. You've got wealth and success in that sink. That is the world. Like there's so much wealth and success in the world. Their opportunities are everywhere. Money is everywhere. Opportunities to create wealth, to create income, to establish generational wealth. Opportunities are everywhere. You don't have to look hard to find them. So that sink full of water represents the abundance of opportunities and wealth and success in the world. Now, that mason jar, pick it back up with your left hand. That mason jar is you. Now, I want you to take that mason jar in your mind's eye, and I want you to submerge it and put it in the water. And when you first put it in the water, all it's going to do is float. And then when you're ready to submerge it, you grab it with your hand. We're going to play along here. I'm going to advance the conversation. You put your hand on the mason jar and you have to force it under, right? You have to push it underwater. The water is not resistive. You just have to push it underwater. Why do you have to push it underwater? It's because of the emptiness that's inside the mason jar. It's because the air in the mason jar, that water is not resisting anything. It's the air that's in the mason jar that causes the resistance. You literally have to push it underwater. Now, in your mind's eye, well, let's unpack that. So now you've got a world of abundance, and it's surrounding a mason jar, you, that inside is not full of wealth and success. I want you to associate those with the feelings of wealth and success. Because wealth and success there's accumulation outside. But in order for you to be wealthy and to be successful, these are feelings that are in your body. Wealth and success isn't a number, and it's not an accomplishment. It's a feeling inside of you. Because if you don't feel it, it's like it doesn't exist. You can have endless piles of money, but if you don't feel wealthy, you're literally broke. Because you're just dealing with feelings of poverty or feelings of lack or feelings of scarcity. I hope you're feeling me. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. I've watched millionaires, 7, 8, 9 figures, feel broke and wake up in the middle of the night like they had nothing. Because money cannot solve a poverty mindset and a poverty heart set. Money will not give you the feelings that you want. You have to feel those. Money will not give you the feeling of freedom. Money will not give you the feeling of safety. Money will not give you the feeling of abundance. Money will not give you the feeling of wealth. Those are choices. And those are inside of you. The money's awesome. It's the water in the sink. But when you're in and you're submerged and there's money all around you, if you don't feel wealthy, the money's not going to do it for you. Now, let's go where we left off. The mason jar, the empty mason jar, you, without the feeling of wealth, without the feeling of success, is submerged in the water. Now let it go. What happens to it? It pops out of the water because it can't stand to be in the water. The air forces it out. If you've listened to this podcast long enough, you've heard me talk about the book, The Big Leap. And The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks is all about self-sabotage. You can take someone who was born and raised in poverty. They win the Powerball. They're now worth $350 million, and they will set out on an adventure of becoming bankrupt in a very short period of time because inside of them, they have a poverty mindset and a poverty heart set. They're surrounded by money, and those two worlds can't stand each other. And they find a way to make all of their money go away. This is why athletes make 7, 8, 9 figure contracts, and then they're bankrupt a couple years later. This is why performers, this is why artists, this is why actors that are tremendously wealthy eventually, sometimes, when they don't allow that wealth and success into their mind and into their heart, when they don't decide to feel and think like a wealthy person and feel wealthy, it's just like having an empty mason jar in water, and you let it go and poof, it pops right back out. And it requires force to keep the mason jar inside the water. It takes force to keep somebody with a poverty mindset, a poverty heart set, with thoughts and feelings of failure. It takes force to remain in a place of achievement and accomplishment and attainment and accumulation. And when you're not forcing, it just finds a way to get away from those circumstances. And this is why people self-sabotage, because they haven't let success and wealth into their minds and into their heart, that even though money is all around them, they still feel broke, or they still think broke, or they still think lack, or they still feel scarcity. I hope this is making sense. I hope this is clicking, because these are thoughts and feelings that you own and money cannot give you. A pile of money cannot make you feel a certain way. When you feel broke, it's because you're choosing to feel broke. If you have a lot of money and you feel broke, it's because you're choosing to feel broke. You're not allowing the feelings of wealth into your body. It's because there's a jar, or there's a lid on the mason jar. And when you force it down into the circumstances, wealth and success, as soon as you stop forcing, it pops right back out. Self-sabotage happens, and now all those circumstances are gone. And you're floating again. I hope this makes sense. Because when I talk to my rich friends about it, when I talk to my wealthy friends and my real successful friends, the ones that feel it, this metaphor clicks. They understand this. There's people out there with a lot of money that feel broke. It's because they won't let the feelings, they won't change their beliefs about who they are, about what they have, about what's in their life. Now, you take this mason jar and you take the lid off, and you take that faucet and you fill up the mason jar with water, with wealth and success. And you put the cap back on and you drop it into the sink. What happens? Bloop. It falls right to the bottom. And it no longer fights to get out of the water. It no longer fights to get out of the states of wealth and success. It's comfortable just sitting on the bottom, because the insides match the outsides. The insides match the outsides. When you proactively fill up your mind and your heart with wealth and success and love and freedom and feelings and mindsets and heart sets of abundance, when you meet circumstances or when you meet opportunities, you're going to easily and naturally fit into them. And there's going to be no resistance. You're just going to slide right in, because there's wealth and success inside of you. And this is basically the law of attraction in a nutshell. When you feel wealthy and successful inside, then wealth and success, that first sign of opportunity, all the dominoes start falling in your favor. When you proactively engage your mind and your body and reprogram your subconscious mind and reprogram your cells to think and feel like a wealthy person, when opportunity comes knocking, and it will, when opportunity comes knocking, then things fall in your favor. And the resiliency that's required, that I talked about in the last episode, the resiliency required is in continuing to fill up your mind and your heart with what you want to feel and not what you don't want to feel. See, if you go back to that empty mason jar, what I've seen so many times is somebody attains wealth and success, and I'm talking about financial like accumulation, and now they've got bank accounts, and they've got investments, and they've got money flowing out of their ears, but they've kept that mason jar, the lid on. They've kept the lid on. They won't allow themselves to feel the wealth that they've actually allowed into their life, that they've created. They won't allow themselves to feel it. They won't allow themselves to think it. They won't allow themselves, they won't change their identification, I guess is a decent way to say it. It's not my preferred way, but they won't change their story. That's a better way. They won't change their story from broke, struggling person to wealthy, prosperous, abundant, constantly wealthy person who will always be wealthy. And because they won't surrender to being a wealthy person, they're essentially keeping themselves broke. And when they meet resistance, they will find a way to make it go away. And they will find a way to make that mason jar pop back out of the circumstances. See, wealth and success and health, these are things where you have to open up the lid on the mason jar and let them in. And when you let them in, you will find the outside eventually will match the inside. This universe, this life is a very, very much an inside out world. Episode 2 of this podcast is as the business owner grows, the business grows itself. And this is a universal law. It's the law of reflection. All of your circumstances are just a reflection of who you are inside. Everything that you have in your life, everything that you've attracted, everything that you've created in your life, your relationships, your wealth, your success, your health, everything that you can see on the outside is just a reflection of what you believe to be true and who you are as you identify and as your stories are built right now. As the business owner grows, the business grows itself. The law of reflection says that as the inside changes, as the mental and emotional states of the human being change, the external circumstances and the external states will change as well. Only every time. But when you try to force someone who feels broke and who feels like a failure into new circumstances, man, it's going to feel like you're fighting for your life. But when you take that mason jar out and you open up the lid and you fill it up with wealth and success, and you can do this from the comfort of your own couch. You can do this as part of your morning routine. You can do this sitting at your desk when you're taking breaks during the day. You can do this when right 10 minutes before that meeting, when you're sitting in your car and you just allow yourself to think and feel wealth and success. And there's a relatively new science called epigenetics. And epigenetics says, and it's a very important aspect of science, epigenetics simply says that your genes, your DNA, the way your genes express themselves is directly attributable to the environment that they've been exposed to. So if your genes have been exposed to the chemical environment of fear and doubt and worry and scarcity and lack and struggle and tragedy and a roller coaster ride and drama and chaos and conflict, if that is the normal operating state of the genes of the body and the genes are living in that environment, the genes will express that and help you create that. Your genes don't care what your mission is. All your genes do is look at the environment that it's surrounded in and say, that's our mission, let's go get it. And when your genes are surrounded and mired and marinated in fear and doubt and worry and stress, your genes will help you create more of the same. But when you start flooding your mind and your body with feelings and thoughts of wealth and success and love and abundance and prosperity and health, your genes will begin to change how they express, and over time will change their full expression to help you achieve that mission. When you feed your genes constantly the feelings of wealth and success, your genes will express and help you attract and change your insides to think and feel wealthy and successful. And the law of reflection says when you think and feel wealthy, you will attract wealth and success into your life. When you change your genes to feel and to express health inside of you, then you will attract things that will help you become healthier into your life. The law of reflection says change the inside and the outside changes accordingly. And it only works every single time. When you have to take that mason jar, the capped empty mason jar, and force it, it's because the inside doesn't match the outside. And although you can force circumstances and you can force outcomes, people do it all the time. And there's lots of gurus that teach you that that's the way. Just force. If you're just try harder, do more, take more action, force. And all they're doing is increasing the freaking pain that you're going to experience in your life. Stress, anxiety that you're going to experience in your life, resistance. But when you begin to change how you think and feel and how it relates to wealth, success, and abundance, and love, health, then the outside will change magically. And when opportunity shows itself, and it will, it always does, dominoes will start falling in your favor. Nothing stacked against you except your mindset, your heart set. Change that, and you control every outcome that you could possibly imagine. My challenge to you for 2023 is to double down on your mindset and heart set work. And if you don't know what that looks like, get in touch with me. In the show notes, my email address. Let's jam. Let's jump on a call. I'd love to help you figure out how to double down on your mindset and heart set work so you can begin to fill up the jar from the inside so that the outside eventually catches up, and it will. Resilience is determination and patience. As long as you're resilient, I can help you. 2023 is going to be magical. It's going to be magical. My challenge to you is to work on reducing the resistance to your inspired action on a daily basis. Mindset, heart set. It's the key to unlocking everything you could ever imagine.